Alright, this video is sped up. Keep in mind, if you're doing these marker exercises, these do need your technical pens, and you do need your 3 values of markers as well. We've already practiced drawing to vanishing points, so anytime we're drawing any of these objects, we're always trying as much as possible to draw to vanishing points. This is definitely an exercise in drawing with your arm as much as possible. I know that gets repetitive, but I feel like I have to keep reminding you, just especially for people who don't do it that often. Use your arm as much as possible because that'll allow you to make pretty clean and nice lines. Every once in a while they get wonky, but that's okay. The more you draw with your arm, the easier it becomes. So all of these I draw through. You can see some of the lines that hang off the edge. So draw through. Don't feel like you've got to draw exactly to the end. Drawing through will help us to create longer, cleaner lines, and also it'll keep us from having those extra hooks at the end of our lines if we draw through. So it's the same thing casting our light rays, and I did it for both instead. I just said let me go ahead and cast these light rays. Let me cast these light rays. So once we cast our light rays, and remember that these are informed guesses, so we know where they converge to vanishing points. We know that we're casting the edge of the form onto the ground, and so most of what we're doing is we're just trying to make as informed guesses as possible. These are not 100% accurate. We could probably take a significant amount of time to do all of the necessary construction to ensure that it's 100% accurate, but our major goal is to make it feel like we've thought about the plane changes and that there's differences in the planes, and that it feels like there's shadow more than we're trying to do absolute accuracy. So as long as it feels like it's going from the right direction, then we're good. So we're always switching the markers around so that we can isolate our value ranges. So I usually will start out with the lighter ones. Sometimes I'll start middle value, but usually I'll start with the lighter ones, and then I'll come in and I'll establish the dark, and then I'll blend it. The way I'm blending a lot of times with the markers is I just use the lighter one to kind of smudge it around. Sometimes I'll come back in with the technical pens and I'll add a little extra blackness around the edges, just because of the value feels like it's not as dark as I would like it. It's not a necessity, it's not a requirement, but it's just something that I'll occasionally do because I like to give it that extra punch. I like contrast. Because contrast is beautiful. And so here, this is pretty simple and easy. And you can see again, I try to make the marks pretty clear, pretty quick, and pretty distinct. It's rare that I'm going really slow with these markers, that I'm making very clear conscious decisions, and I'm making very clear strokes. And you can see here, this is all that 30% marker, just going in and not even being super precise about the edges, because I know in this case I'm going to go back in later and I'm going to use the number 5 technical pen to hold the edges anyway. So I'm just going in and I'm just adding the variations of, in this case I did the 3 values distinctly, and this I finally went back in and I used my darker value, the 70%, to create a little bit of a transition, so it looks like there's some reflected light in there. And then I went and I grabbed my 30%, did a little stippling, did some blending, smooshed it around. Smooshed is a technical term. It's not. I've heard it before, and I think this made up. So this is when I go back in with my number 5, and I hold the edges in different areas, and you can see that this is one. I would say probably with pens and markers, there's way more arm drawing than with Prismacolor, because sometimes, just for me, I use Prismacolor a lot, so I'm a lot more fussy with Prismacolor and the value transitions as opposed to with markers, because the markers are pretty direct.